In this question, we have a furniture store buying furniture from a wholesaler, and we know the usual price is 75% more than the cost. So we have to be very careful with how we deal with our percent changes here. Let's create a little table, or, well, let's, so to speak. Let's write down our information so we can keep it organized. We know the cost, or the price, the usual price, is 75% more than the cost. So whatever the cost is, which I'll call X, I don't quite know that yet, I'm going to increase it by 75%. And that will get me the price, which I can figure this out, right? Because when I increase X by 75%, that is the same thing as multiplying it by 1 plus 0.75. 1 plus 75% is a decimal. That increases it by 75%. So we actually know that's 1.75X. Now, we also know during a sale, the store sells a table for 15% more than the cost. So for the sale, we're going to take our cost and we're going to increase it by 15%. And we know actually that leaves us with a price of $2.99. And so now we want to find the usual price. We want to find this value, and we're going to need to essentially work backwards. Starting from the sale price, figure out what's the cost, and once we have the cost, we can figure out the usual price. The trap here is to be very careful not to try to reverse this percent and say, okay, if it took increasing this by 15% to get from X to $2.99, let's take away 15% to kind of go backwards. Very tempting. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. So we can try it, right? We'll do 299 times 0.85, and that gets us 254.15. Now the 0.85 comes from our 15% decrease. So I'd be multiplying 299 by 1 minus 0.15. And then I just take this and I multiply it by 1.75 to get the usual price. And we get an answer that, lucky for us, to be honest, is not here. If this were here, this would be very brutal. A lot of students would be putting 445 as an answer, and it would be wrong because this is not correct. I am not allowed to reverse this percent change. I have to work with this percent increase. So instead, what we're going to do, kind of like we did over here, I'm going to take my X and I'm going to say, how do I increase my X by 15%? Well, I'm going to do that by, again, multiplying by 1 plus 15% as a decimal, and that should result in this price of $2.99. So now I have an equation, 1.15x is equal to $2.99, that I can solve for x to find the cost. And we get a nice clean 260, and that makes me feel a little bit better that we're getting kind of a cleaner number versus this kind of weird 254.15 before. So now that I have the 260, let's increase it by by 75%. So multiply it by 1.75. And we do get something pretty close. If you recall, we got 445. So it's not that we're way, way off. And maybe you got lucky. Maybe you got 445 and picked B. But that would be quite lucky because no guarantees on the test that they would not give you a choice that's 445. If they did, and you got 445, you would have picked it. So this is where the answer really comes from. It comes from properly applying these percent changes in our equations to solve for our x, which was 260. And then when we did 260 times this 75% increase times this 1.75, that's what got us 455. So the best answer here is B.